Welcome to Talk Tennis. Troy and I are here today to do a part, well, I guess it's part 2, but these will keep going, so we don't really need to number them. But ask us anything. Troy, thanks for joining.
Yeah. Good to be back on the set.
Yes. Last time we talked about breakfast burritos as our icebreaker. So I know it was controversial. One of my favorite podcasts that I listen to always does something really awesome that happened to them and like something not so great that happened to them within the week. So I thought we could do that tennis related. Like some people call these like rosebud thorn, whatever. Anyways, I'm not trying to be super cheesy, but like, what's your good week, bad week in the tennis world?
Something that happened good and something bad on the tennis court?
Yeah, it can be on the tennis court. It can be tennis related. It can be something you watched in the tennis world. It can be a tennis Instagram person you found. Anything. It can be anything.
I mean, okay, in the last week or like last 7 days or whatever, I feel like the U.S. Open finals were pretty awesome.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one.
And then one that we were even talking about that didn't even get much limelight was the women's doubles.
Yes. Yeah.
And it was pretty awesome. Taylor Townsend getting to the finals.
Let's go.
Playing with McNally.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, they came up short, but it was a really close match.
Yeah.
Against the two Czechs that are like...
so good.
Yeah, always winning.
Well, and I didn't repeat this because I wasn't 100% sure and I wanted to fact check myself and I never went back and fact checked. But I think I read that they like technically, quote unquote, won a Golden Slam. But I don't know if it's like COVID Golden Slam.
And this is Krejcikova and Siniakova?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they've won a lot of stuff.
Plus a gold medal,
yeah,
right?
I think so.
Yeah.
So the fact that they were like Taylor and McNally haven't probably played that many matches together before this.
Yeah,
and
I
like
don't think so.
Getting to the final. Taylor looks great.
She looks awesome.
Killing it.
Yes.
Looking fit.
Let's
playing
go.
awesome. I think that was pretty awesome.
I love it.
Personal
personal.
Good things. Just hitting earlier today, I got our resident string expert out on the court, Wolfman, and we were just rallying probably for about a half hour. But, he hit a few balls side to side, and I just felt like small wins, but like
the knee?
Yeah, I just felt lighter on my feet a little bit, like I could move. I wasn't thinking about it as much. So those are just like internal things that made me feel good.
Yeah, that's good.
And then also little, outside of work over the last weekend, I started to try out. This is not tennis, but I tried out a little pickleball.
Try it out.
And it was fun.
For everyone listening, Troy was like not done it in so long, like not played. I think you were the last one standing that had not officially played pickleball.
Yeah. And it wasn't like I've been saying it, it wasn't something that like I was like not wanting to do, but I just hadn't been, like 100% in tennis. So
yeah,
just my style is like, I'm not really going to take on something else if I'm not feeling good about maybe myself on the tennis court. Mm-hmm. So, I started feeling a little more comfortable on the tennis court, got out for it was like a little clinic kind of, demo day type of thing. Mm-hmm. And joined some of the local country club members, some ladies, some younger players, and it was fun. I had a good time.
Awesome.
So
okay, yeah. I love that.
Negative stuff, I don't know. I'm not talking about negative stuff. Forget the negative stuff. I don't think there's been nothing to really complain about. I think there's a lot of other things in the world that people complain about, so I'm not going to.
I'm here for that.
It's not that bad.
We'll focus on the good. That's awesome. I'm trying to think. Like the week has been busy and lots of little things, but I guess something that's pretty cool in our world is we have a small 60K coming to our area, and we've got a couple of the sponsored players that we work with coming in town that we get to work with and see, and it's really cool because of COVID. It hasn't happened in a few years, and it's just always fun to watch live tennis, and especially when it's pros. And
yeah, it's like such an intimate setting.
Yeah, it's crazy, and hopefully our content will help show some of this. But a 60K is it's on the big scale of things. It's a pretty small tournament. Yeah, and that we're gonna work with Asia Muhammad, who's like also a great doubles player, but she's also working on her singles. And then Kayla Day, who's kind of coming back from injury and has had a really good year. She lost in the second round of U.S. Open qualies.
Yep,
just won Santa Maria Open. So I've never actually met her, so I'm super excited to meet her and work with her, and like that's exciting. It's always fun to like plan those little things.
Yeah, and you said the top of the singles list was Madison Bringle.
So
I mean, people know who she is. If the top 100.
Exactly.
She's been around for a while. So
I'll refresh real quick the entry list, because that's a whole other thing. I would love one of these players to eventually explain how these ITFs work, because it's a lot. Before the cutoff date, there were hundreds of players signed up for this tournament just in case.
Yeah, I think Kalinskaya was the top one, and I think she backed out.
Yeah.
Or she's not coming, but yeah.
And I think that's because they usually get into other tournaments that either are worth a little bit more points, a little bit more money. But yeah, the lineup's solid. Katie Volleynuts. That's how you pronounce it, right?
I think so. That's what it looks like. Yeah. It definitely stands out.
Yeah. Carolyn Dolhide, who had a great
Yes.
US Open.
I saw her at the San Jose tournament. She was the main draw. I got to watch her play. She was playing really good.
Okay. Sasha Vickery, Robin Anderson, Luisa Shiriko. Lots of women from the US, which is great. We love that. Let's see. And then what was I going to say? Oh, we've seen players that have like Shelby Rogers played this, 3 years ago?
Yeah, something like that.
Maybe. And Coco Vandeweghe and like Jeannie Bouchard and like players that have done really well have been at this tournament. So I was kind of explaining to our video guys who aren't as up on, the players outside the top 100 that even though you don't know someone that's like on the list, like doesn't mean that they're not going to be, they could break through any day now. So
yeah, did Taylor Townsend play at one point?
Yes.
She played 1 year. I remember seeing her there.
Yes, that was awesome. Yeah. And even like the qualifying, to me, I think the qualifying stacked. Storm Sanders just won a Grand Slam doubles mixed title.
Yeah.
And she's in the qualies.
She's been playing really well.
Yeah. So we'll see. We'll see. Vicky Duval, it would be good to see her again. She's always fun. Ursula Radwanska. Okay. I mean,
haven't seen her play in a long time.
Right? So that's exciting.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, we have been collecting more of your guys' questions, and we're just going to run through some of them because these are always fun episodes for us. But one more thing before we get into that. There was a thought, and I'm not the one that came up with this, but I think it's a great idea. J-Dub, who Troy already referenced, he's our string guru, our racket guru, our everything guru.
The Wolfman.
The Wolfman. You guys have seen him on a couple episodes. He's so busy and is more behind the scenes than you would realize. However, his buddy, our professor, Crawford Lindsay, and his partner, Rod Cross, wrote a book called Technical Tennis. And J-Dub has been reading it, and I think he's read it a bunch before. But there was a thought we could kind of start a book club on the podcast and go through these chapters. I know J-Dub has highlighted and has all these things that he wants to further investigate and debunk or just kind of ask questions. So I'm just throwing it out there. I don't know if you've read it at any time recently or if you remember it.
I haven't, but Wolfman has been picking my brain about certain things he's highlighted in the book.
Okay.
One of which I won't give too much information away, but it has to do particularly with different string compositions, different string materials, and their effect on what we consider power, I guess, or like maybe ball speed.
Okay.
And how what one player or like the stereotype might be for different string types, what we think may not or may be true, may or may not.
Okay.
Depending on what Crawford says in the book. So
yeah. And it feels a little intimidating for me as someone who hated every math and science class I've ever taken. So I could be your host, but I don't know.
Yeah. We'll be talking about exit velocity, energy return, ball compression.
No,
Come on, Michelle.
No, but I was going to read this little snippet. If you go to our website, you can check this out too, just to give our listeners an idea of what it actually has in it. It says, helping tennis players in their quest for the perfect racket. What is the single most important variable in racket performance? What kind of racket, string, swing produce the most power? How do you create maximum spin? Where on your racket should you hit the ball? What racket and string features combine for the most comfort, control, and feel? Okay, so these questions go on, but they're answered in this book, allegedly. Allegedly.
Okay.
So allegedly.
So how to hit it, like how to hit big, how to hit hard.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you read the book or you can just watch Michelle's YouTube videos, slow motion. You can rip it hard and flat.
I mean, yeah, we come from different ways of getting to the same thing. But if you guys are interested, reach out to us and let us know and say you're in, and maybe we'll start We'll assign some homework.
Yeah. This is for the tennis geeks.
This
out
is
there.
this is like we're diving in.
Mhm.
We know that you guys are mostly like geeked out already, but this is gonna be committing to your like tennis
Mhm.
geekdom. The book is available on Tennis Warehouse and many other places, including Amazon. So even if you have a Kindle, I'm gonna suggest go check it out. And because the Kindle you can highlight, I think J-Dub has it like that.
Oh, he's in the Kindle game?
I think he has a
I
Kindle.
thought I was thinking like he was at home with a highlighter and paperback.
He might be.
Like that's, I'm going back to like
He might be.
my high school days,
But the Kindle is always like cool because you can just like slide it in your tennis bag. You can slide your book in. Okay. Anyways, let's get on to the questions. Starting with that, since we were kind of talking about strings and stuff, there were some general questions on topics that someone asked if we could highlight some polys that might be interesting for a certain quality. Example, better playability duration, more comfort, or more control, or more topspin. Obviously, that's a very general question, and I didn't even give this to you before we started.
No, that's cool.
So maybe if you want to break down, I know you're good at this stuff, so I'll give you each category, and you could just name a string.
Or I could just say hyper G, hyper G, hyper G. No, I'm just kidding.
Done.
That's the stereotype around the office. Is like,
oh, we do like hyper G.
What's our favorite poly?
Hyper G.
Hyper G.
Sorry. No, that's great. I'm wearing my Coco CG ones in the red colorway, and they have green pops on them, and the hyper G matches my shoes perfectly.
Right? It's like almost hyper G / Prince Beast Tour XP.
Just saying.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to match.
No, but anyways. So for different like performance attributes.
Yes. Best playability duration.
Duration. Okay. I'm not being dumb. I'm just saying hyper G is good for, it is good for playability duration. So is confidential. So is Tour Bite. So I'd say all three of the Solenkos.
Awesome.
We find pretty good consistency throughout their lifespan. And that could go in a couple different ways. One is just tension maintenance, and for most people that know polys aren't really great for tension maintenance when you compare them to something like a natural gut or like premium multifilaments. But that said, we're talking more like consistency over its lifespan. So yes, they're going to drop tension, but even when they do drop tension, they still perform pretty well.
Yes.
And I would say you would probably agree.
Agreed.
Hyper G's good, confidential, Tour Bite. Besides that, probably the best one for tension maintenance and consistency over its life is Luxilon 4G, but it's also very,
stiff.
very stiff.
Yes.
So that's kind of the trade-off. And
yeah.
Usually the ones that hold their tension better are stiffer, and usually the ones that are softer, not as great.
Yeah.
But those ones mentioned for sure. Some other ones that I can think of are like we reviewed maybe a year or two, time flies, but Tourna Big Hitter Silver 7 was a good one for, it has really good tension maintenance for poly. Other ones, anything in particular you can think of?
Tension maintenance.
Or like consistency over time?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, for me, I just try to avoid that like springy feel.
Yeah.
I can tell you what strings I don't like that do that, but we're not going to put everyone on blast.
Yeah.
No, I mean, like right now I have Hyper G in one of my RFs, and that's the one I'm hitting with the most because, like you said, it's the most consistent over time for me.
Yeah.
Lynx Touch also is one that kind of surprised me. It's not necessarily something I constantly like would reach for, but it has stayed in one of I have a Prestige, is it the Tour now? Yeah. That has that in there, and I like it. And
that one's soft.
Yeah, it's
comfortable.
Soft. Oh, and speaking of soft, that's the other thing is I've been hitting with the Prince Tour 98 a lot, and I actually have, is it Vortex in it still?
Vortex Triad?
Yeah, the 3-sided one.
Triad?
Yes, Triad. The names are a little confusing, but and that one seems to be maintaining playability decent.
And those are both more comfort options.
Yes.
So for softer ones, the Vortex Triad from Prince has been pretty good. Like you said, the Lynx Touch. So if you want a comfortable option that holds up pretty well over time, those two are good. Also, the other one I could think of from a while back, I think it from what I remember, it was pretty consistent over time. It was the IsoSpeed Cream.
Oh yeah.
Which is pretty good. And that one's actually really soft feeling. So yeah, those are definitely some options for
nice
playability.
Cool.
Yeah.
We could go comfort. I mean...
Oh, just overall comfort?
Yeah, overall comfort. You want to pick one?
Picking up right there. Yeah, IsoSpeed Cream.
Right.
Very, very soft. I would definitely throw in the newer string, the Lynx Touch.
Yes.
Then from there, maybe not the softest, but like Hyper G Soft, Torbite Soft, those are good options. But then there's a bunch that probably maybe don't get talked about as much. I really like the Kirschbaum ones.
Okay.
So Proline Evolution, it's like a light blue color. And also the Kirschbaum Explosive Speed.
Okay.
Both really comfortable and feel pretty consistent over time. So those could go in both playability and comfort. And then we have like our more common ones like Cyclone Tour. I'm trying to think, the Vortex strings from Prince. And then I wouldn't say maybe the softest feeling, but like from Luxilon, like the Element.
Oh,
Pretty
yeah.
good.
Yeah. Element.
Yeah. And then what's their newer one? The Vibe?
Yes. Vibe. Yeah.
You tried that
one.
right?
Yeah. It's definitely a softer option as well.
Yeah. So I'd probably say those. But as far as like soft polys go, there's a lot more. Like I could go through the site right now and probably pick out 50.
Yeah.
Yeah. Those are just a few that I...
It's funny. I ran into someone the other day and they were kind of like debunking the myth of poly and discomfort and arm pain, and they were shocked. It didn't have to do with string. Actually, it had more to do with a certain racket brand, but they were shocked that they tried something and it didn't bother their arm. They were expecting it to. And it's like, see, it's, like, yeah. Anyways.
No, it's definitely something that it can be very like a personal thing. Like, things that you wouldn't think would be comfortable work for certain people.
Yeah.
I just got a comment today on YouTube talking about like the new Beth video. She picked the speed.
Yeah.
But she was talking about the gravity and how the gravity... I think it was the gravity that ended up bothering her arm.
Yes.
But
that
it's
was
really
a
soft.
controversial comment.
And then also talking about like our podcast we did on low tension.
Mm-hmm.
There was a guy who mentioned that low tension didn't work for him, but he strung his poly at like 70 pounds.
Yeah.
I wouldn't recommend doing that for most people. But he said somehow with the string that he was using, some sort of poly, that works and he doesn't get arm pain. And I'm like, hey, to each their own.
Right.
So yeah, it can be a very personal thing. And then there's always the thing or the thought of like the number one thing probably that can protect yourself is like good technique and all that stuff.
Right?
So there's all that factor. But when we break it down just to the gear, I guess sometimes, it's not always what we would think would work for someone ends up doing the job. But for the most part, these would probably be good ones to go with.
Yes. No, it's so interesting because that's been on my mind a lot too. There's a young player I work with who initially kind of put her in a lighter, stiffer, open string pattern racket. And like it was great. And she had been coming from a junior racket. So it was like a good transition. But now I'm seeing with her technique, and I don't know if someone taught her to hit this way or to me, it looks like the racket just doesn't have enough weight in the tip, which we all know that's where I like to put weight.
It needs that plow.
Yes. And like, yes, I'm a little bit more old school, as Alexander Stevenson would say. I'm a 2000 tennis player. So we like focus on extending the tip of the racket. Like I always say, like, oh, pretend there's a string and I'm pulling it towards me.
Yes,
to the player.
A little more linear swing path.
Right. Yeah. Yes. And this player is getting stuck with the butt cap of the racket leading, especially on her backhand side.
Yeah.
And she's not whipping through the ball like a Rafa or anything. So it's like that is not the intention of her swing. And so I'm now starting to say, okay, this girl can handle a heavier racket. And I've thrown some like MPs or just standard 100s in her hands.
Yeah, like 300 grams or something around there, 205. Yeah.
Gave her the new Ultra 100. She swung it just fine. She actually grabbed my Prince 98 because I didn't have any extras and I switched rackets with her just fine. Head Instinct MP just fine. So I'm like, okay, sometimes we can debunk some of these things where it's like, okay, newer to tennis or younger or under the certain age has to be under a certain weight. Like,
there's always
the personal.
It's so individual. Yeah.
Yes. And then we get like those emails that's like, buying a racket for my wife. She's super athletic, and it's hard to tell. That's why we love the demo program. Anyway, speaking of in the market for a new racket, Racy Lamb asked, I prefer oversized heads, and I'm rehabbing from rotator cuff injury and tennis elbow.
Okay.
Looks like they're going acupuncture. Let's go. Not the hardest hitter. I'm probably a 3.5. What would you recommend? Thanks in advance.
Okay, so probably about a 3.5, looking for something
a little oversized.
And they're
a little sensitive.
probably needing comfort. The thing that's kind of like two-sided in this. Is not only is it the elbow, which is like typically you're thinking about comfort, shock absorption, reducing vibration. You want a comfortable racket, but then the shoulder, not so many times is the shoulder related to vibration or shock.
No.
The shoulder's more range of motion and weight.
Yeah.
And
I can speak to that.
we all know that. You've had shoulder problems. I grew up throwing a baseball and a football a lot. So yeah, I know what it's like to have that kind of trouble. So I would say comfort in the racket is going to be important. Maybe a little bit of maneuverability. And you want to go with, somewhat oversized. I'm kind of particular to kind of the more control-oriented oversized rackets, and they're also probably pretty comfortable. But like a couple that come to mind are like the Dunlop that Chris and Booney really like.
Yeah.
What is that? The CX?
Yeah. It's a 105.
200 OS.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a 105, but it's thin beam and it's soft. So not going to be like, for a 105, it's not going to be a ton of power. Yes, it'll be more power than like a 98 with a thin beam, but it's not going to be like your typical oversized.
Yeah.
But it could be worth trying something like that. Also, what is another? The Prince Phantom 107.
Yep.
Yeah.
That would be really good.
Because it's like a classic 107, almost like an older, like Prince oversized, but not as heavy.
Yeah.
Or like a kind of like a head radical oversized back in the day, like Agassi type of racket.
Yeah.
Very, very soft, very comfortable, forgiving, but once again, not a ton of power because it's a thin beam. And then for a little more forgiveness, I know these are more rackets that I know Brittany has really liked lately.
Yeah.
The Prince Twist Power 105.
Okay.
Forgiving. More power than those other two, but not overly stiff or uncomfortable. And then what was the other one?
The Strike. No, maybe.
The Strike 103 was one that
I feel like Bert liked that one a lot too.
The Strike 103, maybe. The Prince Twist 105.
And then there a Pro Kennex oversized. I mean, I know there's a Pro.
I think, was it a Black Ace?
Yes. Right?
105.
Yes.
Yes. So
I'm
all
pretty
those.
sure.
And Pro Kennex, I mean, maybe doesn't get talked about a lot nowadays. There's not a ton of tour players. I mean, I think Seppi was the last of the dying breed of Kennex.
Kennex.
But, they make, when you're talking about arm comfort and that, they're excellent.
Yeah, for sure.
There's people that swear by a Pro Kennex for arm comfort.
Also, maybe a quick shout out to Vocal.
Yeah.
Because there was a comment recently, or maybe it was even on the other Ask Me Anything episode, that someone had mentioned. They were surprised that we didn't bring up Vocal. Some of the more older school rackets of theirs, I think, feel a little more comfortable than some of the newer ones.
Yeah.
But actually, the one even we just play tested, that one's definitely flexible and comfortable.
Yeah. A perfect one is one of the new ones called the V1.
The Evo, yes.
And it's not super oversized. It's like barely over 100. It's a 102. So technically still in the maybe mid-plus class, but still forgiving. And got a little more weight than the old V1 Classic.
Nice.
And it's got like a 64 stiffness, which is good. And then it also has that Vocal handle system, which is like
dampened.
Killer for protecting the arm.
So there you go. We got you a bunch of options. Get a demo or just pick one, and we think that that's really good.
Yeah, those
are a good list.
Good ones.
I think a lot of people also can benefit from that. There are so many questions on tennis elbow, and like again, we're not doctors or experts in this realm, just product geeks. But let's see. Oh, this is a fun one. And Galen, shout out for this question. And you always leave us some cool comments. And thank you for that. It says, love the podcast. Thanks for taking questions. Have either of you played with a frame you really didn't like? And no matter what you tried in terms of weight, strings, tensions, etc., you just didn't enjoy it, but played very good tennis with it? If so, what did you do? Despite hating the way it plays and enjoying the result, or switch to something that felt better and that you didn't play as well with?
Okay, wait. So I definitely started thinking about rackets over the years.
That you hated?
Like I didn't hate, but like not in my wheelhouse. Like maybe stiffer than I like. But then when we went to go shoot the video, like I just played lights out, So
that's a phenomenon that I don't know if people realize. Like we have these instances where like we love a racket and we then go do the play test and we can't play at all well with it.
Like the actual like video recording.
The actual video recording.
Yeah.
Or we hate a racket or not hate. Hate is a very strong word.
Yeah.
There are things that we dislike about the racket.
We weren't gelling with the racket.
It wasn't like they weren't going to get the final rose.
But then you just like hit 5 winners in a row. And it's
right.
Like, what?
Yeah. I've both.
But the
both.
second part of that question was, so he asked about that part first. And then what did he say about?
Basically it's like, if you played well with that, would you keep playing with that racket, or would you go to use something else that doesn't perform as well for you?
Just because you like how it feels or looks or, you know, I gotcha.
Which I think, I mean, speaking for myself and how I know of the rest of us, is like, we normally stick with what we like through and through.
Yeah.
It's hard to like be like, we'd also definitely have those moments where you don't want to like a racket and it grows on you.
Right. Yeah. That too. Maybe when they're like rackets that like everybody overly obsesses about and you're like, oh, it's not that great. But then you do see the magic in it a little bit.
Chris does that with stuff sometimes.
Nah.
Just kidding. We all do that with stuff. I'm not going to lie.
Like one that came to mind, and this was a long time ago, and I think it was a weird racket for a lot of people because of the head size and the string pattern, but it was back when Wilson had the spin effect rackets, and it was the Steam 105S. So it was like a 105. I never usually play with it, and it was like a thicker beam. It wasn't like the ones we just talked about where it was like a thin beam oversized.
Yeah.
It was, you know, had some stiffness and some thickness to it. And then it had, with the 105 head size, it had a 16 by 15 pattern in that big of a head. Like in a smaller head, like a 95, that kind of pattern's not crazy.
Yeah, but
the bigger the head gets, the more the strings. It was just like, you could almost like fit like half, like part of the ball would be like going through the string because the squares are so big.
No dampeners.
So we had it strung with like 4G 15 gauge because back then they used to make the 15 gauge just for those rackets because people would break the string so fast. Like Jay used to use the 99S and he'd break strings all the time. So that racket, I was just like, oh, this racket's so weird. One thing it did have going for it though is I think it was slightly extended and it had a high swing weight. So maybe that just felt good for my arm, like get my mind out of the picture and just let myself swing it. But anyways, when we did the video for that, like my shots were just crazy spin. I was just ripping winners. I think I was hitting against Britt that day, and like her level was definitely ahead of mine at that time. But I was just like hitting these crazy winners, and I think even she was like, "What the hell? It's like, what's going on?" But that racket really was like crazy power and spin.
Yeah.
And somehow that day I was just able to control it.
That's funny.
But that was one for sure that I was like, but I didn't continue playing with it because that string pattern, that kind of like launch angle on the ball was just so different than everything else that it makes it hard for you to be a tester and go back to all the other more normal type of rackets. It really throws your learning curve off.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Now, and like now that you're talking about Wilson, and like I had this with the initial Clash, and then also just recently with this Ultra 100. This is not a racket I would ever even consider switching to, but most recently with the Ultra 100, the version 4 that just came out, it's just like so fun to like hit the ball as hard as you can.
Yeah.
And I know I used the word fun like 600 times in that video, but like literally, can you imagine just rattling or drilling with someone and just hitting the ball all over the frame, like not even in the sweet spot, and like the ball is still staying in. Your footwork's not great. Like,
yeah. And I get what you mean by like fun, even though you said it a bunch or whatever. Like it's not a racket that you would usually take serious.
Yeah.
But then you start hitting with it and you're like, oh man, like I can really
like
pound. I can pound the ball with this thing.
Yeah.
I think I don't know if I came up with the term, but I like to think I did. Is it has a good slap ability.
Yes, 100%.
Like you just slap the ball and it controls it somehow.
Yeah.
And it's like it gives you a boost in power, but your balls aren't flying out all the time.
Yes. But then at the end of the day, like I think both you and I are kind of one of those that like I need a racket that makes me be disciplined. So then I'm like, no.
You need a little more feedback from your...
Yeah, I got to get my feet going. I got to, but hey, you never know.
And I also recall maybe rackets that you didn't hate, but like in the past, when you kind of were getting your groove as a tester, not like you didn't give them a chance, but usually 1820 patterns, right? Like dense patterns weren't your thing. You're like, oh, I'm not a dense pattern player. And so you'd hit the blade 1820, or like I can now even recall like that Prince 1820 Phantom. One of them, we had like like a sample version that you were hitting with. And like you were playing really well with them, even though like in your mind it's like, I'm not an 1820, flexible frame player. You were hitting really good a couple times. I remember back then with those. So it's like
that extended one.
Maybe,
I know.
Soft
I put myself.
frame.
Yeah, I don't know. I know. Even with that most recent DeVocal, Chris is like, "This isn't in your wheelhouse," and
it makes sense because I mean, your favorite racket now for a long time is stiff. It has a 1619 pattern.
Yeah, but
so
that's a cool question. We love stuff like that. Let's see what else. Here's another tennis elbow one, but hold on. Oh, here's a quick one. Where's Tonic? I haven't seen it on the site lately. It's my favorite gut to buy. It seems to be gone from a few shops. Do you know where Tonic is?
So that I kind of shot myself in the foot on a podcast we did not too long ago. I forget which one it was, but I started talking about like how you can get Tonic and another cheap poly and do a hybrid with it, and you can get like the same pretty much performance as like Champion's Choice for like a lot cheaper.
Yeah.
Like quite a bit cheaper.
And then everyone bought it.
And then someone commented on that video, like, where's Tonic? Like a week later, like I started looking for it and it's not in the system. It's in the system, but it's not available.
Yeah.
So I think Babolat may have like cut the
discontinued.
Maybe because I was like pumping it so much. I was like, oh, it's just as good as VS, but like cheaper. And they're like, nah, this guy cannot be taken away from our VS sales.
Cut off the supply.
Yeah. Just because it literally was VS. And the people on the boards and the people that are like really string nerds probably know this, but it is VS. It was VS. The only difference was they would put it in a separate packaging, give it a different name when it didn't pass certain QC quality control regulations. So when they do the gauge testing on the thickness of the string, if it's a little bit, if it's a 16 gauge and it's supposed to be a 1.30 millimeter, if it's 1.34 and then 1.26 and then
it wouldn't
it's
pass.
Not perfect in their gauging, it gets thrown into the Tonic pile,
got it,
so to speak.
Yeah.
And for most of us humans, that are looking at it, you're not going to see it. And when you're hitting with the string, it's 1.26 and 1.33. I can feel it. You couldn't. It's literally VS. It's great gut. But unfortunately, it sounds like I don't have a final confirmation on this, but it sounds like Babolat's not distributing it anymore, because if it's, I know for sure it's not we're not getting more in our system. It looks like, and then maybe other sites too. So
well, for
kind
now,
of a bummer.
Yeah, that is.
But recently stringing for tournament players that were using gut hybrids. A lot of them still using clip, which is a good deal. I think there's a couple other options for slightly cheaper prices.
Yeah. Okay. So no more of that, but keep your eye out for good deals. Here's another quick one. I can take this one. Well, I can't take this one. But TT Warrior 1 asks, why do my poly strings strung at 55 feel like they're strung at 155? I mean, obviously we have no idea what racket you're stringing it in or what string you're using, or what you normally string at. So if you like tried 55 and you're used to like 50, I can understand that. But definitely, like, I've had experiences where I've gotten a racket restrung. We always joke, J-Dub will sometimes like tell us it's 52, but actually it's 62, or like he'll mess with us. Where you like get the racket off the stringer and you kind of do the hit test to your hand and you're like, oh boy, this is tight.
Yeah.
But I'm here for it.
Yeah, there could be a number of factors there. It could be totally different, poly. And some people don't realize like how stiff certain polys feel compared to others.
Yes.
At the same tension.
Shout out to the string
so it could be that
tool.
Could be you did change tension, go up a bit, and it feels way tighter. It could be maybe a different stringer you used, depending on who's stringing your racket and the machine they use, like
different calibrations,
string technique, as well as the machine type, the mechanical, the kind of lockout crank machines. The more old school machines, they yield typically a lower tension on average, even if they're calibrated the same as an electronic that constantly pulls.
That's good to know.
It's usually tighter feeling. So if you use a crank machine at 55 and a digital computerized high-end machine at 55, and the same stringer strings them at the same time, if you could clone that person, their doppelganger or whatever, in a perfect world or whatever, they'll feel different. Yeah, usually like probably 3 to 4 pounds just on the machine. So
yeah,
there's a number of things that could have happened there, but just go down, man. Listen to that low tension podcast and try 42. Or someone posted the other day, I saw on social media at a tournament, and they strung Manarino's racket, Pure Arrow with Alu power, and he was at like 10 kilograms. What's that? Like
I don't know.
20.
Oh, that's low.
yeah. I mean, it's kilos.
Wow.
Is what is it, like times 2.2 or something like that?
That's crazy.
In the 20s?
20.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah.
I can't. This is like, be very careful. And I feel like everyone knows this, but maybe not. I feel like people don't necessarily know it. But whenever you have a racket that's like super, super tight and it's like unbearably tight, you can kind of just put it on the ground and like softly. Yeah, no choice. Like, don't tell them that.
Yeah, Michelle's like, leave it on your dashboard in like 100-degree weather.
Too, but like, don't. But like, soft. Like, don't put your full weight, but like soft, like little, like soft.
Yeah.
And just be careful, because obviously, like, if you mess up your string bed and your racket, you void the warranty. I guess I have to say that. PSA. I do not. Yeah. Anyways, don't come at me if you break your frame.
Right.
But maybe, okay, fine. Maybe
or like give it to like a pro.
Yeah. Maybe, hopefully you're pro.
Yeah. Give it to a pro, or like a really good college player, let him hit with it for like an hour.
Yeah. There you go. Like Andy Murray used to have people break in his shoes.
His barricades, right?
Yeah. You should have someone break in your racket. We are running out of time, but this is the last comment I'm going to read for this episode. It says, if you want them to do a video with the MRT guys, and sneak peek, we're about to record an episode with a player who is probably going to need some MRT service. So we're going to kind of talk her through getting brand new rackets. Like, she's making a huge switch. She's actually going from extended to standard length, and then she is going to be in need of some customization, and she is a pro on tour. So that's a little sneak peek of one of the next episodes, where hopefully we can highlight some of the MRT stuff.
Yeah, for sure. Yes, anybody that's interested in the MRT stuff or looking to place an order and wants certain specs, you just got to call our racket expert line, 1-800-799-9230.
Don't look at me.
I hope I got it right.
Told you I don't do numbers.
The guys who edit this video will put the number over my head and fix it.
Call
I think that
now.
was it.
Yes.
But, call our racket expert line. It's on the website, and there's quite a few guys on there that sit in our office that we deal with every day that can explain it to you and get you dialed in. Whether it's just you're buying a couple rackets and you want them to have the same specs, that's a pretty basic service. So that's kind of like what we call just our regular MRT service, and it's not a certain spec, but we'll just make sure that those two are like basically like twins.
Yes.
So close as possible. But if you have like a custom, what we call a custom request, not customization, but a custom request, I want this swing weight 330 or close as possible, or I want my racket as close to the specs on the website as possible. That is giving a request. That's typically a little bit more. It's like $20 a frame or whatever. So the racket experts can dive in with all that.
Yeah, they're awesome. They'll talk you through it and help you out. So give them a call. And if you guys have more questions, we still have more to get through, and hopefully we can keep on keeping on with these Ask Us Anything types of episodes. But feel free to leave comments on our YouTube channel, on our social, on our Talk Tennis message board, or you can even email us at podcast@tennis-warehouse.com. A lot of you do email us, and if you notice, we'll get the questions and distribute them and get them answered right away, so you don't have to wait for us to record one of these. But thanks, you guys, for interacting. Anything else?
I think that's it, man. Just have fun out there and enjoy your time on the court.
Yay, happy hitting.